Hey guys, so today I'm going to come to you with a trick we can do with the Ghost. I don't know if it's more of a trick or more of just a fun little possibility. I certainly don't recommend it for tournament play, but this could be a lot of fun. And I call this the round one bombing. And here's basically how it works. I'm going to give you the whole build and tell you what you can change out. We're going to start off with the Lothal Rebel, and we're going to equip the Ghost. We're going to equip proton torpedoes and extra munitions, because the rear arc can always fire torpedoes. For turret, we're going to go with a twin laser turret. We're going to use advanced sensors. And for crew, we're going to throw Chopper on there because he's free. And anytime you have a free crew slot on a Rebel list, the Chopper is always a good idea, just in case. I mean, you may never use him, but he costs 0. For the shuttle, we're going to go with Ezra Bridger, mostly because he's got the EPT, and he's actually pretty good with stress. He may be one of the best pilots out there as far as staying alive. We're going to give him expert handling. We're going to give him experimental interface, cluster mines, the Phantom title, of course, and Sabine. So Sabine is what grants him the ability to take the cluster mines. And then with our remaining points, we have Lieutenant Blount here with adaptability and XX23S thread tracers. So the reason I did this, now this is one of the things you can totally change up with this build. I did this one specifically because the shuttle does not have the target lock option. And we have torpedoes, so that's the synergy here. The torpedoes will benefit from a free target lock, so you can focus and target lock. Or if you weren't able to take your action, Blount will guarantee it. He'll also give it on to Ezra. I mean, if he's close enough. But you have a lot of possibilities there with Blount. And the idea of this is that we're going to go really far forward, and we're going to deploy on round 1. So that's why I'm going with torpedoes here, because I'm not planning on shooting my primary weapon out the back arc. I'm planning on shooting torpedoes out the back arc. I'm going to deploy the Phantom on round 1, and so that's it. So I'm going to show you how it works, how to do it, and then some options. All right, so here I've just taken a typical setup of 3 small ships for my opponent. In this case, I've set them up this way. They may be set up a different way. The idea is you want to set yourself up kind of in the middle of the board, but basically across from where other people are going to be. Now, that can be a little bit difficult with the Pilot Skill 3 Lothal Rebel. So if your opponent is all aces, then that's going to throw this plan away. This is the ideal here is to deploy after at least something, and a lot of people will have at least one ship that's Pilot Skill 2 or lower. And that's basically what you want to do. All right. So when you're deploying, your asteroids, you want to set up kind of a lane. You want to try to put them off to the side as much as possible and try to keep the middle open, because what you're going to do is you're going to be doing a 5K as your first maneuver. So the first thing you want to do is deploy the Ghost as far forward as possible. You want it to be basically facing the ship you want to mine right away. Okay? You want it to be dead center with the ship you want to mine right away. Because the mines are basically going to go completely straight. Now, for Lieutenant Blount, you're going to also deploy him. The shuttle's going to start the game docked. You want to also have him fly on the side with the more guys. So if there's a higher concentration of guys over here, then you want to deploy him on this side. If there's one guy here and then they deployed their aces over here, you want to deploy him on that side. Okay? So in this case, it looks like I have a little more over here. Let's say they did that. Then I'll deploy Blount right here next to the Ghost, also about as far forward as I can go. All right. So, beginning of the game, hopefully these guys are higher pilot skill. That really is the only challenge of this, is trying to hope that you are mostly across from them. If you're not, it's not the end of the world. You'll have to adjust your tactics a little bit, and I'll show you how you can do that. So the first thing we're going to reveal, before we reveal our dial, actually, we're going to advanced sensors, and we're going to do a forward 1 boost. Okay? Now, some people, I've talked this over with some people, they've said that you can deploy at an angle and do a curved one boost, but it puts you the same. You end up just as far forward. So I wouldn't recommend doing that. As a matter of fact, it's better in case you go up against a building, everybody's over here. Now you can do a boost to the left or the right if you need to. But I like going a forward one boost. Now reveal your dial, which will be a 5K with the ghost. Okay, that's going to put you already halfway across the board. All right. Now's the tricky part. Once you complete your maneuver, now you can deploy. Okay. Now we're going to do a hard 2 turn on this guy. He's going to do his hard 2 turn right here. Now he's a little far, but now he has 2 things that he's got a couple of options right here. The main idea here is first thing you want to do is barrel roll. You want to barrel roll as close because these guys more than likely are going straight, right? If you're right here and they're right there, they're probably coming for you, usually. So you want to barrel roll closer to them. And I'm going to barrel roll backwards and that way, closer to them. Now I can deploy cluster mines by using experimental interface and taking a stress. This is another reason I picked Ezra, because a stress is fine, because he's going to get a defensive bonus because of it. So let me pull out my cluster mines here. And voila. Now, if I had lined it up perfectly, my opponent would actually be right here, right facing the ghost, exactly. Now, as long as they didn't do a 1 forward, they're going to hit this right away. If they're an Imperial ship, they probably don't even have a 1 forward. So they probably had to do a 2 forward. But if so a 2 forward, we'll put this guy right on the first mine. Now, if that was, let's say that was Suntir Fel, for example. Now, Suntir Fel usually is going to come out a little faster, but he likes to fly at an angle too. That's already, you're going to have to roll 2 dice, so you can already get 2 damage. And then, because of Sabine, you can do a 3rd damage on there. So that could one-shot kill a tie right away. Perhaps even a bigger ship, if they did a farther forward maneuver, like a 3 or 4 forward, and that puts them over more than one of the cluster mines. So there is that. Now, the sweetest thing right here would be, in theory, to get Suntir Fel, to fly directly over this, roll 2 hits, and then you trigger Sabine for the 3rd damage, and you one-shot Suntir Fel before he can even take his first action. That's the perfect scenario. However, if your opponent is not doing that, then you have some different options. Well, now suppose you didn't line up with your opponent. Suppose they deployed over there. Now, Lieutenant Blount's higher pilot skill might give you some indication that they're deploying farther to another side, so let's say he went over there. Now, you're not going to be able to mine them right away, right? Now, my original plan was to deploy with a 4K and then drop bombs directly in their faces, but after a revised look at the rules, you have to deploy straight out. You can't do a K turn because your rear guides have to be into the maneuver. So, that being said, if it's in a case like this, we can still do our 2 maneuver and barrel roll. Maybe we don't in this case. Now we'll barrel roll backwards. And the idea here is that wherever they go, their ace might put himself right here. Now you have a shot on him, but he won't have a shot on Ezra. So it's a great way to get a range 1 shot, turn 1, too. And that's the slowest possible starting maneuver for a lot of Imperial aces or a lot of pilots wanting to engage. Sometimes they'll engage with a 1 forward, and if that was the case, you would still have a shot. That would only put him about right there. You'd still have a shot, but Ezra's going to die pretty quickly if you do it like that. So then on the following turn, you set up the mine. So you're looking at a turn 2 mining that way. So in a way, it is kind of a one-trick pony, but you can here's what you can do to make it less of a one-trick pony. Okay, one of the things you can do is you can swap out the Lothal Rebel for a higher pilot skill pilot. The only problem is you're going to be moving later. Now, that's okay in some respects. However, the risk here is that if you do go up against like an Inquisitor or a Fel or somebody with boost, that maybe they'll move farther forward and then boost, and now they're no longer in range of where you can drop your mines. So now, all of a sudden you're deployed this way. Oh, now your mine's not going to do any good. Okay. Also, the highest you can go is 7. So if against the true aces list, you're still going to move before them, but against a swarm, you're going to move last, and you might not even, if they go fast enough, you might not even be able to deploy in a good enough position. Like, you may not be able to barrel roll into the correct position. So there's that problem. You can certainly change it around with Lieutenant Blount, because he would in this case he would do a 4 forward as his first maneuver. He's not going to be able to shoot, but you're lining up for a turn 2, tracer thread shot. The other things you can do is you can change out expert handling. Initially, when putting this build together, I almost thought I could double barrel roll, because a barrel roll action and then an expert handling action, but that's actually a free barrel roll action in the text, so you can't do the same action twice. But expert handling is still useful, because it allows you to, if you need to use experimental interface in order to barrel roll, you can then focus and then use experimental interface to barrel roll, also clearing a target lock. So it does give you plenty more options. I'm sure that there's something else that might fit if you're changing Lieutenant Blount up. You don't have to go with proton torpedoes. You don't have to go with torpedoes at all, but I like that option. And you can obviously change up the turret, but I think advanced sensors is really a must here, so you can get that extra far forward before you deploy. One of the things that's been, an idea is that maybe putting Princess Leia on here to make that first K-turn white. Then you don't have a stress early on in the game. And then also, now that you've boosted, you can then, if that was a white maneuver with Leia, you could then turn around with another K-turn, and now you're back in position for turn 2, back to safety. However, you've stranded Ezra. So that would only work if your opponents were going really far forward. And let's say they all start off with 5 forwards. And let's say you dropped Ezra behind them, and they all went 5 forwards. Well, that would be great. Now you've got Ezra behind them, and then you've got this guy back to safety now. So they're just caught between a rock and a hard place that way. But the idea here is cluster mines with Sabine. The last other option I could see is maybe dropping Blount and putting something else that can drop bombs on, freeing up enough points to maybe throw a Y-wing bomber in there. That is a possibility. This way you take extra advantage of Sabine. However, this is so risky that the ship she's on may not last very long at all. So this has been the round 1 bombs in your face walkthrough. Let me know what you think. Would you ever try something like this? Do you think it's pure cheese, or do you think this is actually viable? So I appreciate all the feedback. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day.